Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. Gosh, it's already a Friday deep in April, and it's the first post um, busy season deadline Friday. So, for those of you who didn't have a state extension or some emergency extension that took you into May or into the fall, and you're really at least finished with the first big hurdle on the tax side, and those of you who are wrapping up audit reports, we hope you're getting to enjoy some spring. Here in Nebraska, where I am, spring is showing up every day and then ending in winter usually. We're expecting 26 degrees this weekend, so I'm super sick of the fickleness of my
I
weather.
know.
I'm really tired of the lack of continuity and consistency, but that's not the theme of this leadership lunch chat today. I'm Jen Wilson, and I'm here with my bestie, Amy Vetter, and we are here to process leadership ideas inside the profession. And today we're here to talk about the launch of Amy's next and newest book, Disconnect to Connect. And that will be launched this Tuesday, the 24th, I believe the date is, and Amy can tell us better since she's the expert on her launch. But we're here just to kind of talk a little bit about the process and the themes in the book, and really it's a leadership journey. And so we'll talk about those ideas and see where they lead us related to leadership in life and leadership in our work. So Amy, do you want to jump in here and start? Tell us a little bit about what's coming up.
Yeah. So thanks for allowing us to talk about this today. It's a big deal to go through a book process. And every time I write a book, I say I'm not going to do another. And now I'm on my third. So it's so exciting when it comes to launch and all the work that goes into it, bringing it into the world. And this one in particular, Jen's read it and very graciously gave her endorsement for the book as well. That's in there. But this has definitely been my life's work, this book. So it's taken a very long time to put this book out. I probably took notes for 13 years at least. And it's taken the last 5 years of really getting it right and ready for the world. So I feel really good about the place that it's in and really putting, my stories out there to help others, that we come to work with this mask on. We don't always realize everything that's going on in people's lives because we have to function. We have to, achieve. We have a lot of commitments in our life as well. And we don't necessarily know what each person's story is and what led them to where they are today. And sometimes when we see certain behaviors at work, whether that's through leadership, whether that's you're leading people on a team, that there's a lot of assumptions that are made about people rather than knowing what the root cause of a behavior is. And so this book is really to get to that vulnerable place for all of us so that we can have better understanding, especially in this world of so much change management, of what it really takes to bring people along with you. And you have to start with yourself. And starting with yourself means taking that time to really understand what's true and not true of how you live, that we have these belief systems that are created over time. They can be created from family. They can be created from a prior boss. They can be created from someone at school that said something to you along the way. And sometimes we live those beliefs and don't even realize they aren't ours and create habits over it or create fear as well. And this book is about really how to push past that and do the work to get to the other side.
I love that. And I'm reminded of my partner, Renee, who, high school teacher maybe, told her she was never going to be a writer. And she told me that somewhere early in our career journey together. And I was like, who is this person? Like, how could they judge that at that age? What are we talking about here? And so she's a beautiful writer. I was like, well, how about you be a not good writer here at Convergent? Start working on that. Let's see what happens. And she's just a great writer. I mean, honestly, she walked around in her adult life with a belief from some teacher that told her something that no teacher could tell. You know what I mean? Like, who is that person that said that? And how many other people did they say something so limiting to?
Yes.
Oh, boo. So, and I really loved in your book, your sharing your path or your journey and some of the things that might have given you limiting beliefs or caused, root beliefs or feelings that you've had to process. You've had to sort of set yourself apart from them, lay them out on a table or something and look at them over time and say, I believe this or I behave this way because of that. Do I still want to? Or do I have to? I just, so sharing your familial journey and how it shaped some of that was really vulnerable and, very caring of the reader to say, hey, come in here and let me tell you my story. And maybe inside of hearing my story, you could start to examine yours. I just loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, well, thank you. And really, two things there. The first one about my story and what I was really careful of in this book was these stories were shaved down and shaved down and shaved down because my biggest goal in this book was not to get lost in my story. My story is an important part of the book and the journey. When I wrote Business Balance and Bliss, people would always say, well, how did you get there? What created that journey? And this is really it. This is the prequel to Business Balance Bliss because it is the hard work that you have to do on yourself and that, really honest truth that you have to, deal with in your own life and go through that. And so what I wanted with my stories was that people realize that everyone has a story. And so by telling mine, it's really to open up your own. And I don't want anyone to get lost so much in my story that you're not brainstorming your own. And I think, and that's what was really important because I give a lot of actionable tools and ways for you to work through things. And then it's up to you how you take it in your own journey. The second thing that, really created the whole Disconnect to Connect and breaking beliefs and with my podcast is that what I found growing up, and then I also found it in the workplace as well, is our natural tendency a lot of times is to blame others for our own behavior. Because it's easier to do that than do the self-reflection and take what we talk so much about is 100% responsibility, right? Even when that other person might be wrong, what is my 100% responsibility and how I react to a situation or to others? And I lived and I use it through my story of how many people in my life said, I did this to you because of this happening to me, but not taking accountability that it's our work to change. Like it's no one's fault for our own behavior. We can't blame the world for our circumstances and the circumstances that we are in. Everyone has a story and everyone's gone through something and, or good and bad, that it can go either direction. But it can't be the reason why you behave in the present. That 100% responsibility and accountability to how you behave is important. And that is the hard work that every human has to do every single day as a leader, as a staff person, that, if we don't get something done when we were supposed to get it done, or, instead of blaming your coworker for not getting it done, or someone else's responsibility, or you didn't move past a certain situation as a leader and get a project done or get to an initiative, we have to take accountability for our own piece in that, and then not blame. And that's really what this is really that research, that observation of how can I do better, not like be hard on yourself or be hard on the people around you. It's how can I do better the next time?
Yeah. Not letting that limit you is what you're saying, right? So just because I've had these circumstances, or because I learned it a certain way, or because somebody else treated me in a certain way, I don't have to be limited by that. I was thinking about that this morning. I was thinking about the high road. My mom would always say, when I was upset about something, she would always say, well, let's walk up to the high road real quick and look down on this. She'd be like, right now you might be on the low road. But let's walk up that hill a minute and look down on this thing and say, how can I really take the most powerful, responsible, inspiring position, and not the victim, negative, complaining, blaming, powerless position. And I think, unfortunately, the low road is where a lot of people are taught, and there's a lot of low road behavior modeled at work and in our lives, and not too many people call you to the high road and say, wait a minute, man, who cares that all that's happened or is happening? What are you going to do differently? What could you do? What can you change? What are you going to stop doing or start doing that will change the circumstances here, instead of being victim to it, or even worse, being victim to it and victimizing others because of it?
Yes.
It's really, it's not something you learn and you're like, okay, I've got that distinction now and I'm always on the high road. You're falling to the low road as a human. It's human nature to fall there. And just to be there at first in upset or disappointment or hurt feelings or all those sort of sad emotions, anger, that's low road stuff. And we all go there, and we go there repeatedly. And it doesn't matter how much therapy you've had. It doesn't matter how much training you've had. You're going to find yourself standing there a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's an exercise practice to climb up.
Yeah. And what I talk about in the book about that is the goal is awareness of that. So it is, where I think for much of, beginning of my career, I was pushing so hard, wouldn't let any feelings come up, wouldn't let any emotion come up, wouldn't really observe why I was doing what I was doing, because I just had to keep pushing. And that was kind of, a survival skill. And the thing about it is, the biggest thing that I've learned over time is awareness. It's awareness of when you are feeling that way, or little moments come up for you and you are having to step back and pause and say, how am I going to respond or not respond? That you don't always have to have the last word. It doesn't matter. I was listening to, in the car yesterday, a caller called into a talk show, and I thought this was just such a simple example, but like with road rage, is one of those moments where you get mad, someone weaving in and out, or feeling like they're going to cause a car accident, and then, getting angry about it versus like, I'm not going to race them. It's not worth it. I'm going to, step back and just do what I was going to do and not let this person affect me, and make sure I'm safe. And this caller, was talking about this long story, and basically, this instance had been in their head for 3 months, and And those are the things we don't even realize of how long we hold on to things, and is it worth it to take up your mind space with some instance that happened at work that you didn't like what someone did or didn't like what someone said? Is it really worth it to keep holding on to it? Because is it really impeding your process? Or if you feel yourself, and I've been there, when you're in a negative work situation where you're just talking about it all the time because you've got no other way to process it, but it's not productive. It's that doesn't actually change anything. Or your feelings about, as a leader, you're looking at your team and feeling like they're not producing the way that you want them to produce. Well, what do you need to do as a leader to make space and nurture people and find out what is holding them back and really dig into it versus just being frustrated that they're not doing what you're doing and then talking about it in closed rooms, And so those are the things, a lot of those things we talk about on, this leadership lunch chat, but it is the actual steps and work that you have to do to become a leader. Well, I call a connected leader in the book, that, you've got to be able to disconnect yourself, observe when someone's affecting you or you're getting frustrated or you're talking bad about others. And then what do you do about it going forward? Not blaming anyone else. The circumstances are the circumstances, but how can you change the circumstances and pivot?
Yes. And even if the other person won't,
Yeah.
that's another thing that sometimes we get into, is a little bit like, I'll get on the high road if they will, well, get over yourself. It's just us, that we're the only ones that we can sort of behavior modify. Right. And maybe our shifted behavior will cause others to shift, but we can't not shift because they won't or whatever. I mean, you just have to keep trying new things. And, one of the sort of pathways or ladders to emotional intelligence that's commonly taught is I have to become self-aware, which is a constant journey, not a one-time 360. Most of us have the same stuff that comes up in our 360s, but we have to be constantly aware of, like, how are our genetics? How is our upbringing? How is our, innate personality? How is our habits? How are all those things impacting others? And so self-awareness and then self-management. Part of self-management is, what you're talking about. So the disconnect is, I've got to disconnect from the situation and, like, look at myself and say, given my current circumstances and who I am and my habits and behaviors, how am I going to address this? And I'm going to self-manage. I'm going to shift from kind of a reptilian brain knee-jerk reaction to something more strategic and intentional, something I can be proud of later. Behavior I can be proud of. That's called self-management. Part of self-management, though, is also giving people in your life that you love and trust permission to lovingly point out, when you're hooked or when you're, stuck on the low road. Seriously, like, that's part of self-management, is having, really good friends and loved ones who want the, max inspiration coming from you. And they're willing to say, hey, you seem pretty hooked by this, or you seem like you're really blaming right now. And who will risk the relationship to point it out.
Yeah.
Which is, really awesome.
I think what's important is that there's so many people that I've encountered in my life that think they can do it on their own. And so what you're saying, there's a community of support you need, but there's also third party, no skin in the game people to help you. Those are executive coaches, those are therapists, those are consultants, whatever those people are, but they don't have skin in the game. So there's a use for each type of person, right? And someone else that can observe you from the outside. And when you are really trying to make change and you get, let's use the 360 feedback, which I think is a good example. The thing is, you just, like, if you wanted to lose 20 pounds, it takes consistency every single day and coming up with a plan of how you're going to lose that weight. that you can't do it. You might need a nutrition coach. You might need a personal trainer. You might need people to help you on that journey. And it's the same thing with our brains. Our brains are so tied in to whatever we built those habits and belief systems to be, that if we don't take the time or get the help around us to keep us on that path, to point out when we're getting off track, we let people know that we're on that journey, and the community that we need to help us. So there's people like my friends, like you, or, my best friends that I've grown up with, that, we can talk about stuff and it's like, yeah, you're right. Like, we're there to lift each other up, right? And you need those people. But then you need that third party person to go, well, have you considered this? Or why do you think you do that? Why, where someone can consistently question you, and make sure that you are, walking the path that you want to be walking. And so that is one of the biggest things that, I want people to get out of this book, is that you're not alone, that you find that community to help you, or those professionals to help you on this journey. And it is a lifelong journey. There's no like, I'm, got to the finish line. Life happens. And so as soon as you like figure out certain things, then other things get thrown at you in life. And so the biggest thing is that you've got a plan in place of how you work through life's challenges and make sure that you're still showing up in the way that you want for the people around you.
I love that. I love it. And I'm excited for your launch Tuesday.
I'm
excited for people to read this and start applying it to their own lives. It's cool it'll be fun to talk to people about that. And I certainly am going to spend time with some of your tools and resources myself and encourage others. So I'm excited, and congratulations on that, Amy.
Thank you for all your support. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And to everybody on our Leadership Lunch Chat today, watch social media for the launch, and stay tuned with us each Friday. And I would love it, and I know Amy would too, if you all would share with us any topics or ideas you think we ought to cover. I think we're going to have a conversation coming up here pretty quick about the 150-hour rule and really the pipeline. That's what it really is. It's not even about that little tactic, but
keeps getting tied together. But
yeah, well, the 150-hour rule is under the umbrella called pipeline. We're going to have to tackle that because there's a little controversy around it.
Yeah.
And anyway, I'm sure we'll talk about that. But if you have any other ideas, hit us up in social media or connect with us directly. We'd be really happy to hear from you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Caroline, for the back end management. And thank you, Amy. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.